Hey guys, today we're going to talk about the nitrogen cycle. This is the movement of nitrogen around the biosphere. So as nitrogen moves through an ecosystem, it's going to experience many chemical transformations, and we're going to show some of these here. First, some important nitrogen compounds are these. So N2 atmospheric nitrogen, N2O nitrous oxide. And then also over here on the vocabulary section, we have some of the processes listed out. So nitrogen fixation is when nitrogen is made usable. This can be done through biotic or abiotic forms. Nitrification is when ammonia is converted into nitrites and nitrates. Assimilation is when nitrate is taken up by plants and then animals. Decomposition or ammonification is when biological compounds are broken back down into ammonium, and then denitrification happens when nitrate is converted to nitrous oxide and then back to nitrogen gas by denitrifying bacteria. An important thing that we're going to talk about here is the soil bacteria on roots of some legumes, which are things like beans and peas. So we're going to talk about these nitrogen fixing bacteria in relation to this. So let's get started on the cycle. Atmospheric nitrogen can be fixed in two ways. So the biotic pathway of nitrogen fixation is going to have atmospheric nitrogen being converted by nitrogen fixing cyanobacteria. They are going to break this down into ammonium. Then, through the process of nitrification, that ammonia is going to be converted into nitrite and then into nitrate, which is available to be taken up by plants. So we're going to pause here. The abiotic pathway is lightning. Lightning is powerful enough to convert nitrogen gas into nitrate, which is available to be taken up by plants as well. When it is taken up by plants and assimilated into their tissues, it's called assimilation. Now, these important nitrogen-fixing bacteria, these rhizobium, are bacteria that are on the roots of legume plants that also help with nitrogen fixation. They can convert the nitrogen into the ammonium that can then be nitrified by nitrifying bacteria into nitrites and then ultimately into nitrates, which can be assimilated again. Now, when it is assimilated into plant tissues and it's eaten by things like cows, it can then be brought back into the cycle in two different ways. One, these cows, for example, will die. Alright, their bodies will be broken down by decomposers, which will then release ammonium back into the cycle, and it can go back through nitrification, assimilation again. The other pathway that nitrogen is released back is through excretion. So let's say I put a nice little cow patty here that the cow needs to go potty. Alright, it is excreting its waste. The process of ammonification is going to take these biological compounds, convert them back into ammonium, which can then again eventually be assimilated back into tissues. Now, the process of denitrification can be done by special anaerobic, so bacteria that do not use oxygen, denitrifying bacteria. This is going to take these nitrates and convert them into nitrous oxide, which will then be converted back to atmospheric nitrogen. So we have this big cycle full of bacteria that are super important for converting these different forms of nitrogen. Now, nitrogen is a macronutrient. It's a limiting nutrient, which means that it's not really abundant. Because it's a limiting nutrient, it can limit the size of a population, especially for producers if there's not enough nitrogen available. Humans have impacted this by using lots of fertilizers. When they grow things and when we fertilize, the goal is to create the largest yield. However, excess fertilizers can run off into waterways and cause some other big issues. Now, a couple ways to reduce the use of fertilizers. One is intercropping. So you can plant some crops together like soybeans and corn. So soybeans are legumes that are going to have these rhizobium, these bacteria on their roots. They are going to help fix nitrogen and help move it through these pathways for, let's say, the corn here. Or you can rotate crops, so alternate crops by year. You can plant something with these bacteria on the roots of one plant and then alternate it and do like corn the next. In this way, you're helping to break down the nitrogen that is already available instead of adding extra nitrogen and throwing the whole cycle out of whack with things like fertilizers and such.